about recovery and about how we're supposed to live our lives in recovery. And the thought process that I have and what I believe is that we are recovered. If we have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind, body, and spirit, where we were unable to stop using drugs, drinking alcohol, and these things were trapping us in a bondage that we were unable to escape from. And then we do a program, we do work around our lives that makes it so that we no longer think like that. We no longer are craving or obsessing about drugs and alcohol. We no longer have to think about it every single day. We have recovered. And I know the difference between the word recovered and cured. I'm well aware that I can't take a drink or smoke just a little bit of weed or do any of that stuff, because the phenomenon of craving will then re-trigger inside of my mind. And I don't know if I have another recovery in me. I don't know if I have that. But right now, I am living recovered. And guys, to go ahead and drop in the comments where you're coming in from. Love to hear from you guys. And I know there's going to be some people on here that are celebrating clean time. So let me know where you're coming in from and your clean time so we can celebrate with you, okay? And today we're going to go over 4 problems that I personally have with the communication around recovery. Some of these things are going to make some people in recovery, antsy, shaky. Maybe they're not going to like what I say. Maybe it might even anger them, because I've had those conversations with people. And if I don't have the opportunity to talk to them one-on-one about their ideas, then they're just going to take what I say and get angry with it, okay? And then I do have some gripes, a little bit of griping with the treatment industry. I do believe that there are a lot of incredible people in the industry. I believe there's people that love and do everything they can to help us recover for good. I also believe that the system was founded and built on some certain ideas and some certain policies and some certain things that have actually damaged our community to a great degree. So guys, I see that you're coming in. I see that you're starting to come in. Go ahead and drop in the comments where you're coming in from so I can say hello. Love you guys. What's up, Kobe? British Columbia coming in. And April 14th, 2021. Let's go. Got a little over a year. Congratulations, Kobe. Good to see you. And guys, if you hit the year mark, and this is one of the gripes that I have with treatment and with the different conversations that we have, okay? Because 85% of addicts that go to long-term treatment relapse within the first year of leaving. And that doesn't even account for the many people like myself that were never able to afford, or we didn't have the insurance to go to these expensive treatment centers. So the relapse rates, the only way that we're able to get those numbers is from treatment centers, is from this industry that is there for us, but only for a percentage of us, right? We got Boston, Massachusetts coming in. What's up, Don? Good morning. Shane, where are you coming in from with that May 15th, 2020? Let's go. We got a little over 2 years. And guys, if you make it to 2 years, here's the thing. After your first year of recovery, the first year of recovery is all about building that foundation, building that program, building that community, that fellowship that is going to take you through that journey of recovery, okay? The first year is vital to get, because so few of us actually get it. If you've gotten over the year mark, now it's time to build that life in recovery that you've always dreamt of, that life in recovery that you've always wanted. Because now you don't have to fight day after day after day to stop using drugs and alcohol. The conversation of one day at a time was never meant to tell you that you have to fight drugs and alcohol one day at a time for the rest of your life. I was never attracted to that. When I was in my drug addiction, when I was in my alcoholism, when I couldn't stop, and I would hear people talking in fellowships or talking in different places about how they do it one day at a time. I'm working one day at a time to stay clean and sober, and I'm just wake up and I'm fighting alcohol and fighting drugs every day, and I have 11 years clean and sober. That is not recovery. We can recover from this thing once and for all, and we can start living a life in our recovery that we're proud of, a life in recovery that we feel purposeful about, that we're going out and we're serving people and we're helping other addicts and alcoholics find freedom from this thing. And it's so important that we use the language of recovered, of being able to overcome this sense of hopelessness, right? And we have to use that communication with the people that are suffering to attract them to recovery themselves, okay? Andrew, what's up, brother? Good to see you, man. We got January 4th of 2021. We got, what is that? 18 months. Congratulations on 18 months, Andrew. Good to see you. Jeremy, coming in. You're coming in from South Jersey, right, Jeremy? With January 16th of this year. Let's go. Almost at the 6-month mark. Excited to celebrate with you, brother. Don coming in with March 2nd of 2015. Don, thank you for paving the way. We love you so much. And hey, listen to this conversation and let me know what you think about this, because you're sitting on 7 years. So you've been around recovery for a while. You've heard this conversation. And I love to know what people think about this also that have been around for a while, okay? Good morning, Jeremy. Good to see you. Good to see you. All right, guys. So one of the things that I want to talk about is, first, I'm gonna qualify myself. Okay. So in my addiction, in my alcoholism, I was trying to stop for a very long time, for years. I was going to fellowships, I was going to church, I was going to Bible studies, and I even went to an MMA for a while, beat clean into me. I actually had a guy, Shane Fichter, on, who's a professional fighter who I actually went and trained with in my addiction. And I would have him kick me as hard as he could because I thought maybe something is going to hit me hard enough to find recovery, right? And none of that was working for me. I would have days and nights where I would take all the dope that I had and I would say, I'm never using again. I'm never doing this again. And if you strap me to a lie detector test, I absolutely would have passed it when I was saying that. And I would dump all that dope into the toilet. And then in the morning, I would pawn my TV, or I would pawn something, or if I had money, I would go and I would buy dope. So what is that? What is going on with us if we're in that state, right? We're in our addiction. We're trapped in this bondage. We're unable to stop. And how is it that we can be in that deep of an addiction, and then we get over here to where we wake up and we're not obsessing about drugs and alcohol? We're not thinking about what we have to do to pick up. We're not withdrawing. We're not hungover. None of these things are going on. We have recovered over here. And it's important that we realize that and we speak life over ourselves. It's important that we communicate with ourselves in our recovery that keeps us going in a powerful state, in a purpose-driven state, a way that we can continue moving in our recovery without the thought process of possibly going back. And that's a gripe that I have, okay? Because I don't think that we need to be telling ourselves that we are a recovering addict all the time. Once we have that solid foundation of recovery, that solid step work, or that solid program, that solid relationship with God, where we're not obsessing about it, we're not craving it, and we're not specifically doing work to combat the obsession, okay? To combat the obsession that we still have. That is a remission. That is being recovered from that state of hopeless mind, body, and spirit. And we need to speak that over ourselves, okay? Happy, blessed, and sober Monday morning. Good to see you. Good to see you. Love you so much. And guys, one thing, some of you have seen this video, okay? Some of you have seen the video of me when I overdosed, when I was in that helpless state. And what you're going to see in this video that I'm about to play is a kid, right? I'm in my early 20s, mid 20s at the time. And at the time I'm working and I'm going door to door and I'm doing really well professionally for someone my age or whatever. And I was suffering in the background. I had a disease that had me arrested. It had me in this place of bondage that I could go do work, but I was sick. I was sick. I would go home and I would use, or I would have to leave work and sneak off to go pick up or to go smoke crack or to go shoot up or whatever I had to do. And what you're going to see in this video, I'm wearing my uniform, my uniform for work, when the police found me unresponsive with no breath and very, very little pulse. Here it is. Now, guys, look at me now. Look at this face. After seeing that face of someone that had no soul in him, no spirit in him, that was so sick that I was overdosing while I was making, money on the doors, while I was able to live this life, how can we say that person, that kid right there, has not recovered at the place that I am now? In the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'm not speaking for any fellowship specifically, I'm not speaking towards or for any specific group, but the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous is the original literature for people like us. Without that book, many of us would not be alive right now. For myself, the Bible saved my soul, and I get a relationship with God from there. I love reading it, but the big book saved my ass. Okay. If it weren't for the big book, the simplified spiritual principles for addicts and alcoholics to recover from that state, I don't know if I would be here right now. I don't know if I'd be alive, because the way that I recovered was I sat down with a sponsor every single morning in my early recovery. We read that big book and we did what it said. That's it. My sponsor had never sponsored anybody before. He had never tried a drug in his life. He was strictly alcoholic. And we basically had nothing in common outside of wanting to do the work. And he didn't have anything to give me except for love and time. And I think it's beautiful that that's all you need to give to a addict that's suffering in order to help them recover. And here's the thing. How many of you have heard people constantly say, I'm once an addict, always an addict, and I'm recovering forever. I'm recovering one day at a time. Okay? That was never, ever a conversation that they meant to be brought into the recovery community. Because when they found this solution, they found this spiritual guide to a relationship with God that arrested the disease of addiction and alcoholism, they wanted to communicate to us that you can recover. And that's why the AA fellowship specifically ballooned and mushroomed and blew up and started helping hundreds of thousands and now millions of people like us to recover. And in that book, the word recover is used 28 times. The word recovered is used 23 times. And the word recovering is used twice. I've read that book cover to cover multiple times. I've underlined and I've highlighted and I've gone through the book with sponsees and different people, not specifically in any fellowship, but I've sat down and done the work with so many people and learned so many things about it. And I've watched people that were in this state, like I was in that video you just watched, that were in that state. And I've watched them recover and become a totally different person. And the reason why they use this language of recovered, recover, and they only use recovering twice. The reason why they use that language is because of one of their traditions. We work on attraction rather than promotion. And when we speak and when we talk to people that are out there suffering, that are out there in their addictions, that are in their obsession and in their craving, that can't stop using drugs and alcohol, if we are communicating to them that we are in recovery and we are fighting every day against this thing 3.5 years into our recovery. We're fighting every day. It's still hard. We think about using, but we combat it with this. That does not attract an addict that is suffering, because I'm already suffering. I'm already having all those thoughts that you're having 3.5 years in if we communicate that to them. I'm already having all those thoughts and all those feelings, but right now I have this solution of drugs and alcohol that helps me get through them. Has anyone else out there ever been in a state in their addiction where they were sad, they were lonely, they were depressed, all of that stuff, and then they used their drug of choice, they used their alcohol, whatever it was, and then that stuff goes away? that feeling goes away because that was our solution. Drugs and alcohol were never the problem. They were the solution to the feeling of restlessness, irritability, and discontentment that we have. And what we have with the program, with recovery, with the 12 steps and fellowship and all of this stuff, we have a solution that works better for life than drugs and alcohol for people like us. We have that solution. And the way that we need to communicate that with the people that are out there suffering is by telling them, hey, this is how it was for me. I felt like this. I felt like I was alone. I felt trapped. I felt hopeless. I couldn't stop using. I kept looking for places that I could find recovery. I kept looking for treatment or whatever it was, and nothing was working for me. But hey, I felt like I felt like I was going to die in this addiction. I felt like I wasn't going to make it. But then I found this solution, and I did this, and I recovered from that state. I recovered to where now I'm able to live my life one day at a time as it comes at me. When opportunities come, I'm able to go after them. When relationships come, I'm able to show up. I was able to make amends to my family that I had harmed so badly in my addiction. I was able to rekindle friendships that I lost in my addiction in my recovery because I recovered. And those people that knew me in my addiction, when I came to them to make amends, I was a different person. Because what happened through this work, through doing the step work, through this program, I recovered and people could see it. And now this is what I'm doing. I was able to write a book. I was able to, build a page where I'm going live to people and I'm speaking to people. And this is a new me, a recovered me. And the reason why we communicate this with people out there suffering is because we let them know that it is possible for them too. It is possible to recover from this thing once and for all. And we do have to do work. We have to do work in our recovery. And in early recovery, we have to do work to arrest the obsession. Once the obsession is arrested by a relationship with God, by a relationship with your higher power, and we start serving people, at that point, we have arrested the disease, we've recovered from the disease, and we now live a life that makes it so that we do not have to go back to that state. In any kind of language we use with ourselves, that is recovered. That means we have recovered, and you can recover also. Guys, I'm going to hop in the comments. Good morning. Good morning. Good word, Jeremy. Good to see you, brother. Greg, good morning, my brother and Recovered on Purpose family. I'm off to work, but I'm sharing this with my groups, brother. Thank you, brother. Remission. God bless you too, Jeremy. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Melinda. Good to see you. Where are y'all coming in from? Good to see everybody. I love you all so much. Pam, good morning. Good to see you. Thank you for the messages last night. Loved seeing you. Correct and amen. Love these conversations. Small or big goals, at least you're accomplishing any goal is amazing. And guys, that is such a powerful statement for people that want to recover from this thing. When we get into our recovery and we're no longer, guys, and hear me on this, in early recovery, while we're doing the foundational work, we are recovering because we're doing the foundational work to make it so that we're in a state of recovered. We're in a state of recovery. When we're in that state, this is it. We're able to start making goals. We're able to start accomplishing goals. We're able to start living that life that we've always wanted to live. And when we get in that place, when we achieve these goals, when something great happens in our life, when we get our GED, or if we go to college, or when we start college, or if we get in that relationship, or if we have a kid on the way, or we started that business, we need to be sharing that. And we need to be sharing it with as many people as possible in recovery. Because the people that are suffering, the people that are coming into the rooms, or the people that you see on the streets, or anywhere that you see somebody that's suffering in their addiction, we have to give them something that they can sink their teeth into, something that they can grasp onto as something they want to go towards. Okay. And it's important to couple the goals, the things that we achieve, the material, the achievement goals of school, of relationships, of fellowship and community, all of those things that we grasp onto. We have to let them know how it makes us feel now, how we feel on a daily basis now. We have to be real. Because guys, I've been in my recovery, I have absolutely been in a state of restless, irritable, and discontent, where I felt depression or loneliness or anxiety or worry or stress or fear. All of these things are common feelings for a human being. But the difference for us addicts and alcoholics is that for this, it's amplified for us, and we used to have a solution in drugs and alcohol. So it's important that when we share these feelings that we have in our recovery, that we share the solution that we have for them now. And guys, I want to tell you a quick story that happened. This was a couple years ago, and then I'm going to hop back in the comments. I was building my other business, and I was down in Colorado Springs, and I was opening up this new location down there. And I was staying in an Airbnb, and I got a call that my little cousin, my 2-year-old cousin, was killed. And it was horrible. I remember the feeling come over me, and this stress and worry and sadness and all of this stuff come over me. And I had to leave that situation because I had to fly out to the state where this was happening, go be with my family. This was hard. And on my way back up to Denver, I booked my flight. And I'm on probation at the time. I'm in my first year and a half of recovery. And I had to call my probation officer to get the interstate compact and all that kind of stuff. And I booked my flight. And then on my way there, traffic hits like crazy. And my probation officer told me I had to make it by this time, where she couldn't give me it because she had to leave. And then I find out that I had booked the wrong flight to the wrong city. And I started getting all of these thoughts, all of these worries, all of this stuff that was going on in my head. And I was crying, and all of these things were going on inside of me. And then traffic hits, and I'm going to be late to this meeting with my probation officer. And I'm stressed out, and I'm worried, and all this stuff is going on. And I exit on Colfax, and the traffic is all the way backed up. And I'm moving slowly and slowly and slowly and slowly. And then I start noticing the cars that are in this line going like this and parting and parting and parting. And then when I get up to where everybody's parting, I notice a Jeep in the middle of the road that has a flat tire. I stop behind the Jeep because this is something that I learned in the program of recovery, is that the best way to overcome, and the best way to overcome self and these feelings of worry and all that stuff, is to serve someone else. And I practice it. And I stopped behind that Jeep. I turned my hazards on. I came up to that window, and I knocked on the window, and it scared her. She was like, "Oh my gosh, I've been sitting here for 20 minutes and nobody has stopped." And I said, "Hey, that's all right. That's all right. Let's just get it changed. You know, I got you." And change that tire. And guys, as soon as I stopped behind that Jeep, all those feelings of worry, stress, sadness, all anxiety, all of that stuff left me in that moment, because I was being of service to someone else. And this is something that is so important for us in our recovery. And then the amazing thing that happened from there is that my probation officer was still there because something happened where she actually ended up having to stay there. The airline refunded my ticket and gave me a new one at a discount because I told them the situation. And I was able to make it out and be with my family. And now this is coming from someone that 2 years earlier than that, I had missed my cousin's wedding. I had missed births of cousins, births of family members. I had missed a funeral of one of my favorite cousins. Guys, and we can't say that someone who is able to overcome all those feelings from this worry and this trouble and this sadness, that's able to overcome that by a solution of service, who used to do it with drugs and alcohol and avoid everybody. we cannot say that that is not living in a state of recovered, because we have that solution. Guys, I'm going to hop in the comments and say what's up to everybody. Good to see you. Work on those character defects every day through Christ. Amen. Good morning, Charlie. Good to see you. Sacramento coming in. What's up, Melinda? Good to see you. I used to live in Elk Grove for a little while, worked there for a while. Hello from Canada. Good to see you. Emily. Got good word coming in from Charlie. Melinda, good to see you. I may have all the things I want, but I'm learning I'm right where I need to be. Amen. 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 If you don't aim at something, you'll hit nothing. And guys, right here, when we were in our addiction, right at the end of the road, all I could think about was the goal and the aim of finding recovery. I just wanted to stop using drugs so bad. And in early recovery, that has to be the aim. We have to focus fully on a program of recovery. That's it. Until we have that strong foundation where we can turn this aim into something else. We always have that foundation of being able to go back to God through the solution that we've learned, through fellowship, through step work, through servicing others. But then we're able to start aiming that solution at other goals in our life. Maybe we want to get a degree because we'll be able to serve more people. Maybe we want to go start a business because we'll be able to serve more people. You know, all of these things are aims that are in the will of God. And that's what the state of being recovered is searching for and progressing in the will of the one who created your will, the one who created your life. And we, in recovery, we're able to get a hold of that. We're able to get a grasp on the reality of we are here to help others. Period. Guys, we're going to take a quick 30-second break, and I will be right back. Hey, you. Did you know that I wrote a book? It's called From Chains to Saved, One Man's Journey Through the Spiritual Realm of Addiction. It's a collection of 21 short stories of spiritual experiences I went through before, during, and after addiction. In my recovery since I published it in 2019, I've been able to share it with thousands of people around the world, and it became a #1 bestseller. And now, I'm able to give it away for free to everyone that follows this page. Go to FromChainsToSave.com after the show to pick up your free digital and audio copy. Enjoy the show, and I'll see you after. Love you. All right, guys. Love you guys so much. And guys, I'm really, really enjoying this. Like being able to come live, being able to connect with you guys, being able to have these conversations with you that I've wanted to bring out into the community. And I've done it in fellowships. I've done it in different places in my recovery where I bring this conversation out. And a lot of people just try to smack me with it. No, we're always recovering. We're always a recovering addict. We're always going to be, fighting this thing one day at a time. And that is crap. Coming from someone who really suffered from this thing, who really was completely hopeless, right? I can tell you out there, if you're suffering, there is hope and there is a solution to recover once and for all. And you never have to go back. You never have to go back to those feelings of hopelessness, despair, and the only solution you have is a drug or alcohol. You never have to be there again. And what I've learned in my recovery is that those feelings come up, but now I have a solution that works. A solution that works, that keeps me progressing in my life. And in recovery, when those things come up, they come up for a reason. Because through these trials and through the different ways that we apply the spiritual principles that we've learned, we build a character. We build a character within ourselves that we're able to stand up proud. We're able to stand up in the world as someone who lives recovered and of service to the world. And that's the whole point of being in recovery. None of us, I don't know about you guys, but at first I absolutely wanted to just recover. But once I found this thing, once I didn't think like that anymore, and once I didn't have to stick a needle in my arm multiple times a day in order to be okay, I just wanted to give this back. Does anybody else have feelings like that where you want to just go out and serve people and help the people that are where you were? Servicing others services both. Amen. Service is a key to life. Amen. Hey, from Nashville, Tennessee, good to see you. Good to see you. And helping others, honestly, is one of the best feelings to your soul. Amen. And Jeremy is coming in saying, recovery is a process. Everything you want to accomplish has to start with Christ and recovery. If you practice this, the results are limitless. And guys, I'm a Christian. Everybody that follows this page knows that I'm a Christian. And I also am very aware that you don't need Jesus to stop using drugs and alcohol. I have met so many people and I have helped so many people that were not Christians. And the sponsor who got me through the steps was not Christian. I got sponsored through the steps by an incredible person that had never done any kind of drug, had never sponsored anybody, and was a gay man. What did we have in common that we were able to do work together and find a solution for me that worked? It was a common solution that works for everyone that suffers from the disease of alcoholism or addiction. That is what we have. And that is how we need to speak about it to the world. And I agree, Jeremy, for people that know Jesus, we have to do the work with Jesus. It has to come from a place of knowing who God is to you, your understanding of God. And guys, even as a Christian, if you're Christian or if you're not, the point of recovery is understanding God more and more every day, understanding your understanding. We grow in our conversation. We continue to seek him through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with him as we understood him. And that means that we understood him this way this day and this way this day. Because as I seek God's love for me and for other people, I find out that it's impossible to find the end of it. It is impossible for me to understand the fullness of the one who saved my life from addiction. It's impossible. Preach it. Recovered, set free, delivered. Amen. Amen. Pam says, I was told over 2 years ago from my first sponsor to always talk to the newcomer. First, welcome them in the rooms, then talk solution when I talk. Now I get to sponsor new girls and review the program with them, and the obsession has left me a long time ago. Win-win. Love this topic. And I love you saying that, Pam. Thank you so much, because it's so true. It is so true. When our focus gets, because guys, in early recovery, and everybody's heard it, recovery is a selfish program. That's misspoken and misinterpreted, because the actual program of recovery is 100% selfless. That's the only way that we get in this state of being recovered, where the obsession has left me a long time ago. The only way we do that is through a selfless nature. In early recovery, we have to be selfish with our recovery. And what I mean by that is we are willing to cut off anyone that doesn't help us recover. And the reason why that is still completely selfless is that is putting us in a space to be able to recover, to help others find it. If we're still recovering ourselves, if we haven't transmitted this thing, where we feel that obsession gone, where we feel that need, that craving gone, how are we going to transmit that to someone else? Right? Now, that's not saying that someone with 5 days can't help someone with 1 day by giving them encouragement, by saying what they did to keep those 5 days, by what they're using to overcome the withdrawals, to overcome these thoughts and feelings that you have in early recovery. That's not what that means. But when we're in early recovery, we need to talk about the step that we're on only. Because once you actually have the awakening through the steps, you can actually tell people the realness of what happens. And be honest when you're sharing about it, because there's someone out there that needs to hear it. Correct. Bro, you did not come off incorrect at all. Not at all. And guys, you are absolutely 100% free to share your faith, lack of faith, your higher power, your belief in God, your non-belief in God. This is a 100% safe space for everyone. The reason why I am so overt about my faith is because there's people out there that need to hear it. There's people out there that I can edify with my own faith, that it will encourage them on their own walk. Do not let my faith discourage you, because like I have said multiple times in videos or lives or whatever, is that I am well aware that you do not need Jesus to stop using drugs and alcohol. I've sponsored atheists. I've sponsored agnostics. I've sponsored Buddhists. I don't think I've sponsored a Hindu yet. Someone that thought that they were, like that, new age type stuff. And all of these people, every single one of them, the first conversation I have with them is my belief in God and my faith has nothing to do with what we're doing, with the work that we're doing. I believe in Jesus. I will never preach to you while we do this 12-step work. And it is vital, Christians, it is vital that we are okay to do that. If we are in a fellowship where it is clear that God, as we understood him, the ultimate authority is one God for all. And our faith as Christians, okay? The point is, addicts that are suffering, a lot of them, if we preach at them, they can't hear it yet. They can't hear it yet. And we have to love everybody where they're at. There is absolutely nothing wrong with sharing your faith. When we talk to someone that is suffering, one of my favorite questions is, what is your belief in God? Where are you at with your relationship with God? And then I listen. If they're Christian, great. If they're not, great. When they explain it to me, I tell them what my faith is, and then I say that has nothing to do with the work that we're doing. But that is where I am at with my faith. What I have learned, and guys, here's the thing. I've brought multiple people that were agnostic, atheist. I've brought LGBTQ people that I've sponsored to Jesus. But I never preached at them. Not once. I sat down and I read the big book with them just the same as my sponsor did with me. And whatever happened, happened. So guys, I love you. And Jeremy, you're never, ever, ever incorrect for coming off with your faith, brother. Facts, facts. If you have God, you have everything. Amen. Amen. Melinda, guys, this is about to be good. I left an 11-year relationship for my recovery. Even had to accept my brother pushing me away from making that choice. Guys, this is exactly what I'm talking about with early recovery. It is those people, the people that you have to leave in order to recover yourself, will shame you, will tell you, how could you do that? I've had to cut off people that I was really close to, best friends in my life since I was 14 years old. Because if I didn't, their influence on my life of using drugs, of continuing that place, that influence is more powerful to take me down than I can be in that conversation to bring them up. And the reason why I say that is when you've connected with someone so deeply for so long as the person that you were in your addiction, that's how they see you, that's how they'll treat you, and that's how they'll believe you are. But now, guess what? Many people that I had to stop talking to and cut off because of their use of drugs and they're not wanting to go with me. If I ask them once and they don't want to go, I'm gone for now. But now with me sharing publicly and me going live and writing a book and all these things, dozens of people who knew me back then have messaged me and either asked for help. Guys, here's the story. So many of you have heard my testimony of when I was at IHOP on day 5, clean and sober, and I was super excited. I'm talking to my best friend, and then I get this text message on my phone. Just have this little flip phone, and it's from my dope dealer. He's like, "Hey, bro, I just got some new stuff. It's fire. I'll give you a free 20 to try out." And you know the story. If you don't know the testimony, it's on YouTube or whatever. But basically, that text message happened, and I texted him back, and about 2 years later, after I had recovered, right? About actually 2.5, 3 years later, I went back to Billings, Montana, and I spoke at an event. There was 1,500 people at this event. It was a worship night, and I was the keynote for storytelling. And after I spoke, and they had live broadcasted it to the city on TV and internet and stuff. And the next day, that drug dealer that hit me up on day 5 messaged me on Facebook looking for help. That is the power of leaving behind who you have to leave behind for your own recovery and living your recovery on purpose, living your recovery powerful and in a state of being recovered. Because that person that was dealing to me at the end saw me at my worst. And then a few years later, he sees me on the biggest stage in his city, sharing my story. And I even shared a part that he's involved with. That's the power of being recovered on purpose and sharing your story. And stories like that have happened multiple times in our recovery. And that's why I encourage everybody on this live and everybody in recovery, share your story as much as possible, as powerful as possible, and with as many people as possible. Okay? If you have God, you have everything. Amen, amen, brother. I've seen God evolve in people as they work the program. They see the promises come true. And it's so true, guys. It's so true. I've seen people very early on in recovery, less than 30 days, where they're doing the work so hard that one day they went from crying and suffering and sad and worried and all of these different things that happen with withdrawals going on to the next day when I see them, something happened while they were sleeping. They're not aware of it yet. But this different person, filled with the Spirit of God, just walked into my house to do step work. I've also been sitting across a table with a sponsee and reading the big book with him, and he was an atheist, hardcore atheist. No belief, there's no way, it's impossible. You have to prove it to me. I have to see it to believe it, all that stuff. Incredible guy. Loved this guy. And while we were sitting there doing the work, we were working on the 3rd step. We were reading through We Agnostics. And what he would do during this is he would stop the reading and he would point at it and he would say, "That's crap," and da-da-da-da-da. And I didn't argue. I let him be where he was. And then as we were reading through We Agnostics, he came to a point where he went to point at the page and yell. And then he looked up at me and he said, "Dude, I feel him. I feel him." An atheist had a spiritual experience with God while he was working the steps as they're outlined in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And again, guys, I do not stand with any fellowship. I don't stand with any group, but the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous was 100% the original literature that saved millions of lives. Hundreds of 12-step programs have come straight from the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Doesn't matter if you're an addict, an alcoholic, a sex addict, a gambling addict. Everything started with that book. So while I speak about it, just know I am 100% anonymous if I'm involved with the fellowship or not. But the reason, that's something else I wanted to talk about today, a gripe I have. Anyone that thinks that we have to be anonymous in our recovery, you are misinterpreting the traditions of your fellowship. Nowhere does it say that we are not to go share our story publicly to help addicts suffering. What we leave out while we're sharing our story is saying, I got sober in this fellowship. I went to this group and got sober. Because we can't promote a fellowship. We can't tell people this is how, because and the reason why this tradition happened is there was this famous baseball player that went up and started going on the news and saying, I went to AA and I got sober, and he's got only a few months and then he relapses. And what does that do to the entire public view of that fellowship? If someone coming out and being loud and proud about it and talking about it and saying all these things and representing that fellowship or that group as a whole, and then he relapses. None of us represent the program or a fellowship as a whole, but we are absolutely supposed to be loud and proud about our recovery, about how we were, what happened, and what we're like now. So people that are out there suffering can send us a message, send us an email, come up to us at an event and say, hey, I'm really suffering right now. Come up to us. This happened 3 weeks ago. I spoke at a college here. Kid comes up to me in Medellin, Colombia. Kid comes up to me afterwards and says, bro, I need help. I'm using this and this, and I don't know what to do. Nowhere in that speech did I talk about a fellowship. But guess what I talked to him about when we talked in private? I talked to him about the big book. I talked to him about the 12 steps. I talked to him about how there's hundreds of meetings in our city with different people that suffer from different types of use that he can go to for support, right? Going through this now, it's been hard to walk away from people and situations, but it helped me move forward in my recovery. I'm proud of all you who have had to go through this. God bless you all. God bless you, Jeremy. And guys, and Jeremy, I'll speak directly to you, brother. Because of how I've gotten to know you literally in the last month, right? Your engagement, your community love, your constant, I love you guys, I love you family, and this kind of stuff in your recovery. You are headed for great things in your recovery. You are headed for a message that will help a lot of people. The people that hear your message, that hear your story, it's going to help them. The people that you left behind and the people that you, right now in your recovery, you need to let them go. That is 100% fine. But be ready, brother, because the longer you stay sober, the longer you keep spreading the message that's in your heart, the more of those people are going to show back up. They're going to show up and they're going to ask you for help. They're going to show up and say, I didn't believe it, bro, but I really need help now. And guess what you're going to have? The solution that you have found, and that you are not promoting. You're not saying, guys, you need to get sober, and you need to get sober, and you need to get sober, and you need to get sober. Because addicts that are suffering, we all know we need to get sober. But that's not the point. We have to attract people that are suffering to the way that we live our lives. And when we do that, they will ask us how we did it. And then when they ask how we did it, we'll have the solution because we've actually worked it. So keep sharing your story. I love you, brother. It's so good to see you always. And just keep in mind that everything you do in your recovery is an attraction for how you live recovered. And it's an attraction for the people that are still suffering. Good work, brother. I'm really, really proud of you. Listening from Washington State, gratefully blessed with our clean recovery date of July 25th, 2013, ODAATJ 42 day. Let's go. I feel like a rapper saying your recovery date. Let's go. I changed one thing, and that was everything. Amen. It's a beautiful feeling. Beautiful feeling. Amen. Share with the intentional love. And guys, if you heard anything on this podcast so far that has served you, that you think could serve somebody out there that's suffering, or even serve someone in the recovery community, make sure that you're sharing it with your groups. Make sure you're sharing it on your page or with someone specifically that you think it would touch. Okay. I've brought in at least 4 into recovery for sharing my story with confidence. Amen. And here's the thing, guys. One person in recovery At least 4. And the numbers don't lie. Us in recovery absolutely have to bring as many people into recovery as possible with our stories, with our message, with our solution. Because right now, we're losing over 100,000 people a year in the United States alone. It saddens me. Because of the way that I share my story, because of my book and my videos and things like that, I've helped a lot of people find recovery. But I never, ever once believed that myself alone could help all the addicts of the world. I'm not stupid. I'm not grandiose like that. What I do believe is that us as a community standing up together, if each one of us got 4 people into recovery, in our recovery, that is a huge dent on the problem that's going on. And we can continue to multiply this number the more years that we get, the more that we share our stories, the more videos we put out, the more opportunities we have for hitting a viral video that goes to 100,000 people. How many people out of 100,000 do you think are suffering right now? I can tell you at least 10,000. Odds say 10% of people in America are suffering with substance use disorder right now, in this moment. So that's an amazing, amazing message, guys. Hello, Nikki. Good to see you. Good to see you. Melinda, yes. Recovering addict, Utah, October 5th, 2019, clean and sober. Let's go. Let's go. Amen, amen. Good morning, Tasha. Good to see you. Good to see you. Saddens me here too. Love you, Kobe. Love you, Kobe. And guys, I just want to go back over what we've gone over, okay? So I believe that we need to talk about being in a recovered state. We have to attract people that are out there suffering to the way that we live now. The way that we are not fighting drugs and alcohol every day, the way that we're not fighting the craving and fighting the obsession every single day. And then we need to talk about blessings that we've gotten in recovery. The blessings include feelings we have now of joy, happy, freedom. Thoughts that we have now about goals, dreams, the way that we serve others, the way that we love others, those kinds of thoughts. Jobs that we've gotten, goals that we've achieved, the GEDs, the bachelor's degrees, these kinds of things, the businesses we've started. We have to tell them about these things. We can tell them about things that we've gotten, like a house or a car or things like that, because in my addiction, in our addictions, a lot of us don't believe that any of that is possible for us. We see all these other people getting them and all this stuff. But as long as we tell people the solution that we found to the disease of addiction and alcoholism first, and then we talk about these things that we've gotten, these blessings we've gotten, they will be able to think that it is possible for them too. That's how we attract, not promote. We don't say, you need to do this in order to get this. You need to do this in order to get this. We say, this is what I did, and this is what I've got. And then the people that the message touches, they'll come up to you and they'll say, hey, I didn't believe it was possible until I heard your story. Can you guide me? Can you tell me how to do this? And you'll say, absolutely, because I need you as bad as you need me for me to stay sober. So thank you so much for asking, right? Where can I buy your book, Adam? And guys, if you want an actual paperback copy of my book, it's available on Amazon from Chains to Saved. If you want a free copy of digital and audio copy where I read the book to you, you can go to fromchainstosaved.com. I'll throw that up right now. Guys, I've had the opportunity of sharing my book literally with thousands of people. It became a #1 bestseller. I wasn't necessarily planning on it getting to that many people, but I don't do how to get sober. I don't talk about how you need to get sober, none of that. It's specifically my story of what I went through before, during, and after addiction, and the spiritual experiences that I had with the message of recovery is possible for anyone. And I talk about my faith in my book. And what I've found about talking about my faith, my recovery journey, and my own story, and not telling people what you need to do to get sober, the people that believe it's possible for them too, if I was able to do it, have reached out. I have gotten thousands of emails, messages, and now text messages. I don't know where my phone number got out, but I've been receiving a whole bunch of text messages from people that thought it was hopeless, whether it's moms, dads of addicts or addicts suffering, or even people in recovery hit me up all the time and like, how can I share my book? How can I write a book? How can I share my story? And guys, I have a solution now, because not only am I attracting people to recovery, but I'm showing people in recovery what it's like to share your story. I have a solution in recovery. While you're in recovery, if you live in a recovered state, you got to share your story, because there's so many more blessings that come with it. And guys, after my book became a bestseller, and recently, I want to give it out for free. I want to give the story out for free. If I was still able to give the paperbacks out for free and send them out and all that kind of stuff, I would absolutely do that, but I just don't have the funds anymore to do that. So I give it away for a digital and audio copy. I read the book for you. It's actually, my voice and telling my story. So love you guys, and thank you for asking, Pam. Chattanooga coming in, just can't seem to break the hold. So frustrating. God help me. Mike, send me a message, brother. Send me a message. We'll go over something. I'll set up a call with you, and we'll talk about your situation and find a solution, okay? Love you guys so much. Mike, love you. Everybody let Mike know that you love him. And guys, we will see you Wednesday for Bringing the Word Wednesday. Make sure to keep living Recovered on Purpose.